Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 104th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. We're back at it with an Everything I Watched October edition, which is always great because of the spooky season. I have my top 5 of the month as normal, so like and subscribe. Follow me on Letterboxd, it's linked below, and let's get into Everything I Watched in October. As Above, So Below, 2014, directed by John Eric Dowdle. All right, this movie is kind of like a found footage type movie. Well, there's a guy recording while he's there, but it's definitely found footage. This movie was decent. It's about this chick who explores. Her dad was like a I don't know, explorer who found treasures or whatever, kind of some Uncharted type shit. But she's in France and she's trying to find this thing, and they end up going into the catacombs, and shit gets wild. As far as a horror movie goes, it does have its little moments of jump scares and stuff, but it was okay as a film. Uh, if you're a found footage fan, I would definitely watch this. As far as a horror movie, it's okay. I would give As Above, So Below a 6.5 out of 10. Deep Red, 1975, directed by Dario Argento. Now, Dario is a master. He made the classic Suspiria, which is one of my favorite horror movies. Deep Red is an interesting murder mystery that has some weird little twists and turns and some creepy kids and dolls and a bunch of weird stuff in it. It's not Argento's best in my opinion. I know a lot of people like this movie. I did enjoy it. It was decent. Um, had some shocking moments. I'll say this, the killer definitely, I was not expecting the killer to be who it was, so that was cool. But Deep Red, if you're into 70s horror, I would check it out, but I can't say it's going to be your favorite. I would give Deep Red a 7 out of 10. Shrimp Blunt, 2022, directed by Ryan Ewing. All right, now Shrimp Blunt is a skate video, but I've been throwing skate videos on here. Shrimp Blunt is the newest Shake Junt video, and any skaters out there, you definitely know what Shake Junt is. This video is fun, man. It's good skating, fun hijinks. If you're a Baker fan, a Death Wish fan, this is right up your alley. As far as the skate video goes, I grade them a little bit differently than regular movies, so I'm gonna give Shrimp Blunt a 8.5 out of 10. If you're a skate fan, definitely gotta watch this. Pain and Glory, 2019, directed by Pedro Almodovar. Pedro is slowly, actually quickly, becoming one of my favorite directors. This was close to making the top 5 of the month. Pain and Glory is a beautiful story about a filmmaker who is gay, and he's kind of lived his whole life with his sexuality kind of suppressed, and he kind of had a one who got away situation. But he's going through his life kind of trying to figure things out after some tragedies and things happen. It stars Antonio Banderas, who gives probably his best performance of his career in this movie. I believe he got an Oscar nom for this, and it was well deserved. I thought this was a fantastic movie. It's beautiful, colors are great. It's got a great story, as Almodovar always delivers. So I would absolutely suggest this to you. I'm going to give Pain and Glory an 8.8 out of 10. Totally Killer, 2023, directed by Natasha Khan. Sorry, bro, I know I messed your name up. Totally Killer came out last year, and I wanted to see it then, but with all the other stuff going on and movies coming out, it just missed me. But I finally got to watch it this year, and I was a fan. If you listen, it's a nostalgic ride. If you like 80s, 90s slashers, this is up your alley. And what's cool about it is they compare the old and the new and how things were and how things are. And that's a cool aspect of it. I always like how films touch on that these days because times have changed so greatly. This film, Karen Shipka, hey, she's a star in the making, man. I think she carries roles very well. She's really been killing it since Sabrina. So, hey, definitely would suggest Totally Killer to you. I'm going to give Totally Killer a 7.4 out of 10. Signs, 2002, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Philly guy, so you know I gotta show my respects. Signs is a movie I've seen before, but I hadn't seen it, man, at least 15 years. It's still pretty good. I gotta say, Joaquin was the standout in this movie. Joaquin Phoenix was funny. He was awesome. His character definitely was the best. Mel Gibson always delivers a good performance. This was when the era of M. Night was dropping real good movies, man. I think he followed up The Sixth Sense with no, Unbreakable was before this. But this was in the realm of Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, all that. Signs, it's about an alien invasion. And, it's pretty cool the way they go through. It's a slow burn movie, but I think the payoff's there in the end. If you haven't seen Signs, you got to check it out at least once. I'm going to give Signs a 7.3 out of 10. Fright Night, 1985, directed by Tom Holland. No, not the dude from the Spider-Man movies. Fright Night, interesting vampire film. It's about a guy whose next door neighbor moves in, and he's a vampire, and he figures it out, and no one believes him. And now that he's let the cat out the bag, the vampire wants to kill him. 80s fun, horror fun. It's a classic. I love this movie. Definitely will be watching it probably next year. If you are into vampire movies, 80s horror, this is a must watch. I'm going to give Fright Night a 7.8 out of 10. Dee Dee, 2024, directed by Sean Wang. Now, I was super duper hyped to watch this movie because it takes place in 2008. It's about a young kid who's getting into skateboarding and kind of finding himself. Cool coming of age story. And this movie spoke to me because although by '08 I was kind of winding down my skating, I was still very much into the culture. And I actually think this movie was really good. What kills me about it is Dee Dee as a character. I couldn't stand this kid. I wanted him to be so much more likable than he was. Even at his age, I couldn't understand his motives, his actions, why he did and said some of the things he said. It bothered me. But this is one of those movies where, despite not loving the lead character, it's still a great film. Listen, this is definitely one you should watch if you're into coming of age stories. Dee Dee is good, but it could have been better. I'm going to give Dee Dee an 8.4 out of 10. The Slumber Party Massacre, 1982, directed by Amy Holden James. Now, I ended up watching this movie by total accident. It came on after, I don't remember. I watched some other horror movie and it came on after. And I just let it play and ended up watching the whole freaking thing. This movie's about a girl whose parents are going out of town. And for her birthday, she's having a little slumber party with some of her girlfriends. And there's a weird dude out killing people. Why? We don't know. Nothing's really explained in this movie. But it's early 80s horror fun. It feels kind of more like a 70s movie, but I think it's 80s still. But I mean, it's okay. I can't say you should run and jump and watch this movie, but I will say for a movie I didn't plan on watching and really didn't know much about, it wasn't that bad. I'm going to give The Slumber Party Massacre a 6.3 out of 10. Woman of the Hour, 2024, directed by Anna Kendrick. Believe Anna Kendrick making her directorial debut, and I must say, for her first film, she did a pretty good job. Did I love this movie? No. But I respected her, what she brought to the screen, and what she did for a directorial debut, because I know it is hard to do. This movie actually is based on a true story about a guy who, in the 70s, was running around enticing young women and killing them. And to find out this was true kind of was disturbing, especially when they hit you with the stats at the end. I was like, what? It really just shows you how times have changed. And man, this dude would not have gotten away with all the stuff he did if this was now. But I would suggest this to you, especially if you're an Anna Kendrick fan. I think you should see what she brought here. I'm going to give Woman of the Hour a 7 out of 10. Resident Evil 2020. Oh, sorry, 2002, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Resident Evil, man, the first one. Listen, if you were around when this came out, you probably love this movie. Man, this movie is awesome. It still holds up. I mean, yes, some of the effects definitely look like 2002, but man, the action's still there. It's a simple story. It gets right into it. It's just a fun time. Definitely a good zombie watch for the season. So I can't complain at all. Had a good time with it. Haven't seen it in at least over 10 years, but I saw this in theaters back when it came out. So I'm going to give Resident Evil, give it a 6.8 out of 10. But on the enjoyment scale, probably a little higher. Jennifer's Body, 2009, directed by Karen Kusama. All right, we got our first top 5 of the month. Jennifer's Body. First things first, I did a whole review on this movie, and I can link it below if you guys want to see it. But this movie is fucking fantastic. First of all, I think that Megan Fox's performance in here is one of the more underrated performances of the 2000s. She brought exactly what this character needed, and she understood the role and what the times were like. This movie is such a time capsule piece because I was in high school when this came out, and I can attest that this movie is very accurate to how high school was at the time. First of all, it's hilarious. All right, Jennifer Check is hilarious. Amanda Seyfried gives us a great performance. There's so many good quotes in here. Like almost everything Jennifer Check says is just funny. It's got some interesting little gore. It's not that scary, but you know, it hits the notes. This is a great high school horror film. It's, man, I saw it a while ago, thought it was all right, watched it again, and I really realized its brilliance. So with that said, I will suggest Jennifer's Body to you, and I'm going to give Jennifer's Body a 9.2 out of 10. Okja, 2017, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Before this dude won an Oscar for Parasite, he made this cute little sci-fi film that actually has some brilliant messages in it that I can get behind. First of all, this movie is a take on the meat industry, animal cruelty. Like, there's a lot of themes in this movie I was not expecting. I really kind of went to this movie blind. I mean, I knew there was a weird animal type creature in it, but I didn't know what this was about. But this movie's about, the government gives all these different countries these weird pigs, and they're given 10 years to raise these pigs how they see fit. In those 10 years, those pigs are going to be sent to New York City for a competition to see which ones are the best. Okja is one who is in Korea, and Okja is amazing. She's this big, fun, loving, almost kind of looks like an elephant mixed with a pig. I don't know. It's hard to explain the anatomy, but this young girl who, you know, has raised her is fighting for her and doesn't want her to leave. And it's a wild freaking ride. I thought it was a great film, and I love the messages in it. So I'm going to give Okja 7.9 out of 10. The Bodyguard, 1992, directed by Mick Jackson. Now, this is that classic Whitney Houston, Kevin Costner movie. Guys, I thought I had seen this, and then when I watched it, I realized I've never seen this crap. And that's like really bothering me because I've seen like everything else Whitney Houston was in, everything else Kevin Costner was in. I'm going to tell you right now, this movie, watching it now, it's decent because it's nostalgic and we miss Whitney Houston, one of the best entertainers we've ever had. So watching it now, you know, it's kind of heartwarming. But if I would have watched this crap in 92, bro, I probably would have hated this movie. This movie, it's just, I don't know. It's a take. it's a fantasy movie, you know, and I don't mean fantasy in the sense of fantasy elements. This is just some guy's vision on, I don't know, his relationship with a musician. Because let's keep it real, this movie probably wouldn't go down the way it did. Uh, I'm just not convinced Whitney Houston would have instantly fell for Kevin Costner. I don't know. That's just me, but it's an all right watch. It's a 90s movie. So I'm going to give The Bodyguard a 6.2 out of 10. To Die For, 1995, directed by Gus Van Sant. Gus Van Sant, man, one of the better directors we've had coming out of the 80s. He's made a lot of good movies I like, and I think this is his best movie. Yes, I'm taking this over Good Will Hunting. That's a great film, don't get me wrong. This movie got some spice and some flavor to it that Good Will lacks. This movie's about a young, ambitious reporter who wants nothing but the fame and the fortune. And she's willing to step on anyone's toes to get there. And when I say anyone, I mean anyone. Nicole Kidman gives a great performance. My boy Matt Dillon, a Gus Van Sant regular, he gives a good performance. And we get a young ass Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck performance in here, and they give good performances. I love this movie. I thought it was great. I will be watching it again soon. Close to making the top 5. I am going to give To Die For an 8.5 out of 10. NUO, 2021, directed by Masaaki Yuasa. Masaaki Yuasa's made some good films over the last few years. I know a lot of people like this movie, and I did too, but I didn't think it was as good as it was talked up to be. It was fun, beautiful. I love the music. The music was really cool. This is a musical. It's about this very kind of deformed dude who ends up kind of stealing the thunder from the town's like big musician, and it becomes this big competition and everything. It's a cool movie. I liked it. I thought the music was good. It's a fun anime movie. So if you're into music, I mean, I could not suggest this to you, Like, am I gonna watch it again soon? Probably not, but it was good. I'm going to give NUO a 7.4 out of 10. Dragon in 1967, directed by King Hu. Man, this movie's been on my list for like 3 years. Yep, and I finally said I'm watching this. Gosh darn it, I'm mad I didn't watch it sooner. This movie is fire. One of the coolest samurai movies I've ever watched. The action in here is groundbreaking. I could see the influence from this movie in later films. And obviously I can see some earlier films that influence this movie, Kurosawa and guys like that. But man, this movie, it cuts to the chase. It's a simple story and the action is fire. You got these crazy tyrant dudes who ended up killing these children, and you got these group of outcasts who are trying to stop them. And it's a simple story, but god damn it, this shit works so well. I would have to suggest this to anyone, especially if you're an action fan. I'm going to give Dragon Inn a 9.2 out of 10. And yes, it's a top 5 of the month. Kramer versus Kramer, 1978, directed by Robert Benton. Also a top 5 of the month. I was so engrossed in this movie. My eyes were glued to the screen. I was cussing at the screen. I was yelling at the screen. I was getting very, very upset. I was actually finding my temperature rising watching this movie because, gosh darn it, man. Dustin Hoffman, that man brought it in this. I'm so mad I'm seeing this so late because this is a spectacular family drama. I could not recommend this more. I thought this was honestly almost a perfect film. Just watch it. I'm going to give Kramer versus Kramer a 9.5 out of 10. All right, back into the spooky stuff. Terrifier, 2016, directed by Damien Leone. All right, the first of what some are calling the new franchise for horror. And I might have to agree. Terrifier, the first one's just simple, man. You got Art the Clown. He's just going around fucking with these girls and just being Art. And it's simple. And a lot of people like the simplicity of this film because I have heard some people say this is their favorite one. I'd have to disagree, but I've heard that. But I get it. Terrifier 1, man, it's just a gore fest. It's fun and silly. You know, if you're interested in this series but this is a horror fan series. If you're not a horror fan, do not get into this series. But if you are a horror fan, I couldn't suggest this more. So I'm going to give Terrifier a 6.9 out of 10. Terrifier 2, 2022, directed by Damien Leone. All right, Terrifier 2. Holy shit, we upped the ante from the first one. Major. More gore than before. A lot more. Long movie. 2.5 hours. But I was in it from start to finish. This movie is fun. Art is fun and funny. The little fucking girl he had with him is creepy. This movie, dude, for me, it's got everything you want in a fun slasher. You know, I will say I'm a guy who likes elevated horror. I like my horror with a little bit of meat on it. But in Terrifier case, it's a simple story, but you don't need a complex story because the real star of the show is the killings and art. We watch these movies for the deaths, man. Let's keep it real. We're not in it for the story, but we do get Sienna, played by what's her name, Lauren Lavera. God, this girl's awesome. She's awesome. So we might have a new Scream Queen on our hands. I'm going to give Terrifier 2 a 7.5 out of 10. Terrifier 3, 2024, directed by Damien Leone. Okay, Terrifier 3, it's been talked about a lot in the last few weeks. I have to put this in my top 5 of the month. Terrifier 3 is one of the most fun horror movies I've seen in years. I had so much fun with this movie. The story is terrible. It's all over the place. Who gives a fuck? No one cares. Art the Clown is at the top of his game in this. Damien Leone, the effects in this movie, the practical effects, the makeup, the way Victoria looks. My God, I was in love with this film. The kills, so good. My personal favorite kill, and this ain't a spoiler, I'm just going to tell you one little thing. My personal favorite kill is the one with the rats in the tube. And anyone who's seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. This film is freaking nuts, man, but it's such a good time. If you're a horror fan, I suggest the whole series, okay? So I'm going to give Terrifier 3 an 8.9 out of 10. And I know that sounds insane, but this is my damn video. And I love this movie, and that's what I'm giving it. I had a good time with it. I've already seen it more than once. And, you know, it's just dope, bro. And you know, they actually are making something out of these. It's not just, there is a story here. It's not a great one, but there is a story. So there's enough for everybody to keep them going. Just me. All right. Hellraiser, 1987, directed by Clive Barker. Another film I saw a long time ago, and I'm watching it this time, and I'm like, yo, I feel like I ain't never seen this shit before. This movie was fire. And now I'm going to sit here and tell you, this ain't for everybody. I had a buddy of mine watched it. He was not into it. There's some weird stuff in it, some satanic stuff going on, some weird sex stuff. It's definitely a horror movie, goth fans movie. But god damn it, I thought it had a very good message in it. This film's about a guy who is trying to come back from the dead, and he's using an old lover to do so. And I'm just gonna leave it at that because this movie's fucking nuts. And I would suggest this to horror fans all day long. But if you're a horror fan, you've probably already seen this. I'm gonna give Hellraiser an 8 out of 10. Chinese Roulette, 1976, directed by Rainer Werner Fassbinder. One of my all-time favorite directors coming out of Germany. This guy, God, he knows how to speak to me. This is a top 5 of the month. I absolutely adored this movie. This film is about a married couple. They're both cheating on each other. They're rich, and they both plan to take their lovers to their vacation homes. Now, their daughter knows about this from each side, but she sets this shit up so they both go at the same time, and these two pairs run into each other, and they spend the weekend there. And the daughter pulls up, and bro, it just gets wild. I had such a good time with this movie. It's it's up my alley, man. It's a Dom movie. You know, I absolutely loved it. I'm going to give Chinese Roulette a 9.4 out of 10. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, directed by Frank Capra. Hadn't watched a movie in a while, and I was like, man, we gotta get into one. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, great film, young ass Jimmy Stewart performance. This film, I'm not gonna tell you what it's about. All I'm gonna tell you is this film is quite relevant to right now and everything that's going on in the world. This is a politician movie, and it kind of shows you how corrupt politics can be, how the system can take people who are well intended and change their morals, change their ethics, and make them, become puppets to the system. This is absolutely one everyone should watch at least once in their life. I'm going to give Mr. Smith Goes to Washington an 8 out of 10. Manic Matty, 2000, directed by Fred Mortagni. This is a skateboard video. So I'll make it quick. This is a classic S video, classic S team. Any skaters out there? Ardo Sari, Eric Costin, Rodrigo Teixeira, fucking Ronnie Krager. Like, oh my God, we had some beast modes in here, man. Bob Burnquist, Rick McCrank, Tom Penny. This team was stacked. And this is a great classic skate video from the early 2000s, man. Any skaters out there who haven't seen this, watch this and get your roots down. I'm going to give Manic Matty an 8.5 out of 10. Magic, 1978, directed by Richard Attenborough. Oh man, this movie. I did a whole review on this movie, and I can link that below if you want to watch it. This movie's fucking nuts. Stars Anthony Hopkins giving one of his best, most underrated performances. This is about a guy who he's a magician who ends up using a ventriloquist dummy to kind of up his act. And him and this dummy kind of become one and the same. And bro, it gets wild. This is a great, great film to watch for the spooky season. Make sure you guys watch this either this year or next Halloween for sure. It's a banger. I'm going to give Magic an 8.3 out of 10. Christine, 1983, directed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter, king of horror, man. One of the most underrated directors we've ever had. Well, at least in his time. Now people are kind of looking back like, yo, this dude was a genius. Yes, he was. Christine, based on the Stephen King novel. It's about a guy who acquires a car from a guy who died in it. And this car has a mind of its own. Christine is no joke. She will get your ass. Don't think because she parked in the garage, she won't come and get you, bro. Christine is wild, but this movie is so good, man. I love this classic horror film. I saw it when I was a kid with my mom, and it's just as good as I remembered. If you haven't seen Christine, you must watch this. I'm going to give Christine an 8.5 out of 10. Raising Arizona, 1987, directed by the Coen brothers. One of their early films, Raising Arizona, man. You got Nicolas Cage, Holly Hunter. Wish they would have worked with them two more. They were great in this film. This film was about a career criminal who ends up falling in love with a correctional officer, and he decides to turn his life around and be with her. and all they want is a baby. So they decide to steal one from some rich people who have five. It's just a funny little early 80s Coens ride. It's got some fun little twists and turns in it, good laughs. John Goodman gives a good performance in here. Hey, it's just another notch under the Coens belt. I would absolutely suggest it if you're a fan of their movies. Is it one of their best? No, but it's definitely worth watching. I'm going to give Raising Arizona an 8 out of 10. The Big Chill, 1983, directed by Lawrence Kasdan. Well, I went into this movie with high hopes. I must say, I didn't like it that much. I'm just gonna be honest. Great cast, a lot of dudes. My man Jeff Goldblum, Jeff Goldblum's in here. You got what's her name? Frick. She plays Cruella Deville. Why can't I think of her name? Oh, it's killing me. She was in Fatal Attraction. God, that's killing me. I can't think of her name, but she's a classic actress. She's in a bunch of stuff. Somebody, Glenn Close. Thank you. That was killing me. But it's got some characters in it. It's about this a group of friends who goes on a little retreat after they unalive themselves, and they kind of find out a bunch of stuff about each other. People have been hooking up with each other behind their backs and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. It's probably would have been better if Woody Allen did it. I'm gonna keep it honest. It was okay. I'm gonna give The Big Chill a 6 out of 10. Time Crimes, 2007, directed by Nacho Vigaloto. This was an interesting film. It's one of those films that kind of loops back over and over to tell you a complete story. And it's about this guy who sees something in his backyard and he goes to discover it. And he ends up getting caught in a weird sci-fi time warp, and he has to try and undo certain things he did before and change things differently. It really gives me a Memento vibe. It's not as good as Memento, but it has that vibe. The movie was decent. I respect what it was trying to do. I think it was very creative, but I just don't think the execution was quite there. But it's definitely a decent watch. I would give Time Crimes a 7 out of 10. 28 Days Later, 2002, directed by Danny Boyle. Man, I hadn't seen this in a while, and I didn't think it was going to hold up, but god damn it, it does. This movie is still good, man. One of the better zombie films to come out of the early 2000s. And if you stack it up with another zombie film I talked about earlier, Resident Evil, that came out the same year, I would have to take this over it. It's a better made film. First of all, Cillian Murphy, before he was Oppenheimer, before he was Scarecrow, before he was doing all this stuff, he played this little tiny little movie that ended up becoming great. Now it's a horror classic. This is a great zombie film. You got Brendan Gleeson in here. God, the chick from Moonlight and Pirates of the Caribbean, she's good in here. She's always good. I cannot remember her name right now. It's a great film. If you like zombie movies, definitely watch this one. I'm going to give 28 Days Later 7.8 out of 10. Train to Busan, 2016, directed by Young Sang-ho. Man, this movie, man, oh, it was really good. But God, the ending got me, man. The ending got me. But you know what? This movie was realistic. And if a zombie apocalypse like this broke out, first of all, the zombies in this movie, these dudes on steroids. These are some World War Z type zombies. These dudes are husky, fast. They ain't playing around. This movie's about this guy, this dad, who's trying to get his daughter to Busan to see her mom, sorry. And he decides to go with her because she wanted to go alone, but he just felt like she wasn't ready. And man, they get stuck on this train with these zombies and they meet these people and you kind of fall in love with these characters. And gosh darn it, man, they really know how to make films over in Asia, man. They really do. I'm going to give Train to Busan an 8 out of 10. Ransom, 1996, directed by Ron Howard. This is a 90s movie, but it's decent. Mel Gibson, you got Rene Russo. They back together after Lethal Weapon. They play some wealthy people who end up getting their son kidnapped for a $2 million ransom. And there's a lot more layers to this story you would think, and in the middle, it takes a turn that I really didn't see coming, and I thought it was a nice turn. It was a different turn. It upped the ante. I thought it was pretty cool. This ended up being much better than I expected. I would suggest this if you're a 90s fan for sure. I'm gonna give Ransom a 7.4 out of 10. Photosynthesis from Alien Workshop, 2000, directed by Joe Castrucci. Another skateboarding movie. Sorry, guys, I throw these in on my movie nights, and I feel like they should be discussed. In this film, we got the legend Rob Dyrdek in here, mad young, before Robin Big, before Fantasy Factory ridiculousness, when he was just a raw skateboarder. We got a ton of good parts in here. You get a young Mark Appleyard part when he was on Habitat, Carrie Getz, Danny Garcia, but you got Anthony Van Engelen and the man himself, Jason Dill, FA's finest. This is a good skate video. It's not amazing, but it's a short watch and it's a good time. So I'm going to give Photosynthesis a 7.8 out of 10. Last but not least, Penguin Highway, 2018, directed by Hiroshi Ishida. This is an interesting anime movie about a young boy. I don't know what grade he's supposed to be in, maybe like 5th or 6th. He ends up falling in love with someone who works at the dentist's office, an older lady, and they develop a friendship. But he discovers that she has a weird ability to make penguins appear. And obviously, penguins live in Arctic climates, and these penguins are walking around the highways with the sun out. And there's a lot more to uncover and discover. It's a decent film. I thought it was cute. You know, if you're an anime fan, I would definitely check it out. Is it the best anime movie? No, but it's worth watching. I'm going to give Penguin Highway a 7.3 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching my everything I watched in October. Let me know what you watched in October, please. Let me know if there's a film or a topic you'd like me to review. Like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I appreciate that. Follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. I'll link that below. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below for more movie content. I will be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.